New 72 Radio, the voice, views, and visions of the collective.
Welcome to Tales of the Sacred Isles. This is a story retold, and I'm going to retell it again, but it's a story that's kept in the Mabinogion, the famous Welsh book of verse. This one's called The Mountain of Marvels. 1,000 years ago in Celtic kingdom of Wales, great lords gave great feasts for the fighting men and courtiers. In timbered halls, for days on end, heaps of meat and bread were washed down with gallons of beer and mead. In between meals, when bellies were stuffed and spirits high, the storyteller rose and spun his tales of long time past. He told of lords bold and generous. He told of ladies grand and glorious. He told of friends brave and faithful. But of all he told about, no friend was more loyal than Rhiannon, son of Lear. No lady more admirable than Rhiannon, and no lord was more honourable than Pwyll, king of Dyfed. The halls are now long gone, yet some tales are written down and gathered in a book we call today the Mabinogion. Chapter 1, The King. Lord Pwyll, king of Dyfed, was in chief court at Arbeth, and a great feast had been prepared for him and his men. And after the midday meal, he said to Rhiannon, I'm going to get this right, Manawydan, son of Lear, friend and companion, will you walk with me upon the mount of Arbeth? I will, Lord, said Manawydan. But there is saying that whatever king sits upon that mount will meet with an attack, or else a great marvel. I do not fear attack in such company, said Pwyll, and I would welcome any sort of marvel. So they went up the mount of Arbeth, which rose above the court, and they sat and gazed upon the farms and herds, forests and streams of Dyfed. And in a while they spied a veiled lady on a great white horse, approaching at an easy gait on the road past the mount. Do you know who the rider is? Asked Pwyll. I do not, said Manawydan, but I can find out soon enough. So Manawydan descended the mount, and just as he reached its foot, the lady rode past. So slow was her ride, he thought he could catch her easily by walking, but he did not. He ran a little, but though the lady was kept her pace, the distance between them grew greater. Harder he ran, but the faster he went, the further she was from the lady, and still she went slowly as before. At last he returned to the mount. My lord, he said, you saw it was useless to follow. I did, said Pwyll. This truly is a marvel, and a mystery as well. The next day at midday, Pwyll and Manawydan sat, let us walk again on the mount, but this time we'll bring my horse along. So once more they climbed the mount, and they had done sat long, when they saw the same lady, in the same dress and veil, on the same horse, on the same road, coming at the very same slow, steady pace. Pwyll speedily mounted his horse, but as he reached the foot of the mount, she was already riding past the spot. Then he let his horse prance after, thinking he'd easily overtake her. When he did not, he gave his horse the rein. It began to trot, yet fell even further behind, so he spurred it on to a gallop. But at its greatest speed, it lost more ground than ever, and still the lady rode on faster than a walk. At last his horse began to fail, and he called out, Lady, in the name of a man you hold dearest, please halt. I will, said she, and for the sake of your horse, you could have asked for it sooner. She lifted her veil and met his gaze, and no woman had he ever looked on seemed so lovely to her. Lady, he said, what errand brings you here? My lord, she said, to meet with you in my errand. No answer could please me more, said Porth. But will you tell me who you are? I will, she said. I am Rhiannon, daughter of Heved, the old, who would marry me off to a man I do not want. It is you I have loved since childhood, Lord, and no other man will I wed unless you reject me. And to hear your answer, I have come. Lady, said Porth, if I had my choice of any woman in the world, it would be you, and I choose you. If that is so, she said, then come to my father's court 1 month from today. A feast will honour our union. At the end of 1 month, Porth rode with 100 horsemen to the court of Heved, the old. A great company welcomed him, and a great feast was ready, and Porth was given the seat of honour, with Rhiannon on one side and her father on the other. When the first meal was over and the revelry began, a tall man in a noble dress entered the hall. Lord Porth, a greeting to you. Welcome, friend, and take a seat, said Porth. I will not, he said, for my business is to ask you for your boon. On this happy occasion, said Porth, nothing I can give will be refused. My lord, cried Rhiannon, make not such a promise. He did, lady, said the man, and in the presence of nobles. What boon do you seek, friend, said Porth. I ask for the lady at your side, he said, to be my wife instead of yours. Speechless sat the king of David. Be silent as long as you like, hissed Rhiannon, for no man ever used words more foolishly. Lady, said Porth softly, I knew not who he was. He is the man I was to marry, she said. Lord Gwal, king of the rich country, and cousin to the powerful magician, Lord Llwyd. But since you have given your word, you now must make it good. That I could never do, said Porth. You can, Lord, she said. Let him have me, but make sure he never gets me. How can that be? I will give you a magic bag, she said. No matter how much you put in it, the bag will always hold more. Now here's what to do. And she whispered her plan. My lord, said Gwal, I await your answer. And here it is, said Porth. The lady is yours, for as long as you can keep her. Friend, said Rhiannon to Gwal, we hold this feast for the king of David, but return in 1 month's time, and another will be held for you and me. So passed another month. Then Porth again rode out with his 100 men to the court of Heved, the old. But they stayed outside, hidden in the orchard. Porth disguised himself with ragged clothes over his own and strung a hunting horn about his neck. And he told Manawyddan and the others, come when you hear the horn blow. Then he entered the hall where Lord Gwal and his men were at the feast. And Gwal was in the seat of honour with Rhiannon at his side and her father on the other. Lord Gwal, a greeting to you. And one to you also, said Gwal. My lord, I have come to ask a boon. Ask and you shall have it, said Gwal. If it was within reason. You speak wisely, Lord, said Porth. But the boon is not large. I ask only for food to fill this small bag. Fill it for him, ordered Gwal. So Porth held the bag open. The servants poured in food. But the more food they put in, the larger the bag grew. So there's always room for more. Friend, said Gwal, your bag will never be full. It will not, said Porth, until a truly great lord shall climb into it, stand upon the food, and 3 times cry, enough. My lord, said Rhiannon to Gwal, you are the man for that task. Will you save our feast? I will, he declared. He climbed into Porth's bag, his feet in the food, and cried, enough, enough, enough. Just as you say, said Porth. He pushed Gwal over, so he fell inside the bag, then quickly tied it shut. Then he sounded his horn, and Manawyddan and the others rushed with the swords drawn. They fell on Gwal's men and quickly had them fettered. Then Porth removed his ragged disguise, and while he did so, his men took the bag with Gwal in it and hung it on a peg. And Porth's men began to play a game with the bag, each man hitting or kicking it fiercely, and they mocked the man within. Lord Porth, cried out Gwal, please hear me. I do not merit death in a bag. It's true, Lord, said Heved. A fate like that does not befit him. What is your counsel? Asked Porth. My lord, said Rhiannon, he has punished enough. Take his pledge, never to seek redress or revenge, then let him go. Will you give such a pledge? Asked Porth. I will, said Gwal, though heavens know what is owed me. They untied the bag and let him out. With your leave, said Gwal, and he limped away with a lowered head and all his men behind. Then the hall was put to order, and they sat down to the feast. each in the same seat as the month before, and the feast went on for many days, with plentiful food and drink, excellent conversation, spirited singing, and delightful entertainment by bards and storytellers. And Porth and Rhiannon left their feast as husband and wife. Yet a day would not come when they would regret the treatment of Gwal in the bag. Chapter 2, The Queen. For 1 year and the second, Porth and Rhiannon reigned over Dyfed to the satisfaction of all. But in the 3rd year, the nobles met in the hills of Preseli and sent word to Porth. My lady, said Porth, the nobles complain you have not borne an heir and ask me to make a different wife. What should I tell them? My lord, said Rhiannon, tell them what you will. Mistake me not, said Porth. I would not part with you for anything, yet neither can I ignore the supporters of my rule. Then say the time is yet short, 1 more year, and 1 more year only must they wait. Before the year was out, Rhiannon bore a son, to a great joy of the court. And that same night, 3 ladies were sent to watch over mother and child. But all 3 fell asleep before midnight, and when they rose near dawn, the boy was gone. They searched inside the room and out, but found no sign. Luckily will be, said one, if they merely cut off our heads and burn us alive. Let us flee, said the second, before the court wakes. No, wait, said the third. I have a plan. We'll steal a piglet from one of the sows and scatter its bones before the bed, and on Rhiannon's face and hands we'll smear the blood. And this they did. At dawn, Rhiannon woke and said, Sisters, bring my baby. Wicked woman, cried the lady. How can you ask for your child? Are you not bruised all over from fighting you? Said another. We never knew such strong and fierce a woman. No way was that we to stop you, said the third. But what would make a mother devour her son? Sisters, what lies you are telling, cried Rhiannon. If the child is missing and you fear for your lives, I'll protect you, but for God's sake, do not accuse me of such evil. Yet the women held to their story. Swiftly the news spread through Dyfed. The nobles met again in Preseli, where they summoned Porth and Rhiannon. My lord, said Penraddan, their spokesman, we beg you send away your wife. I will not, said Porth. If you think her guilty, then yours is the power to judge and punish. But she is not barren, and on no other grounds can she seek to part with us. The nobles confessed. Lady, said Penraddan, do you contest the charges? I do not, said Rhiannon, for I know by law no testimony can outweigh those of 3, yet heaven knows the truth. Our judgment is this then, said the Penraddan. Each evening before you will reign as Queen of Dyfed, each day before dawn to dusk. For 7 years you will stay by the mountain block outside the main gate of Arbreath. To every traveller you will tell him your crime, and each will you offer a bear on their back as far as the gate. And this Rhiannon did for 1 year, then 2, then 6. And all who saw her pitied her, though many feared her also, and her burdened her to carry them away. One day Lord Teiran, King of Gwent, rode up to the gate, and a fine young lad sat before him on the horse. Lord, said Rhiannon, it makes me sad to see the boy, for it reminds me of how I killed my own son and devoured him. But dismount and let me carry you through the gates. Lady, said Tyrion, never would I allow it, and shame on those who make you tell that lie. That evening at the feast, Tyrion was at the seat of honour, with Porth on one side and Rhiannon on the other, and the boy on the other side with Porth. And after the meal there was conversation and carousing, until Tyrion called out, a story for the company, and all grew quiet to listen. I have a mare, he began, with no equal among horses in my land, and each May Eve this mare would give birth. Yet come morning the foal would always be gone. At last I said to myself, shame on me if I don't find out the cause. So the next May Eve I took up my sword and spear and carried a lamp to the stable. The hours passed, and round about midnight the mare dropped a colt as fine and sturdy as he could be. I came closer to inspect it, when all at once I heard a great uproar, and through the window came a gigantic arm, and on its end was a huge claw. The claw fastened about the colt and started dragging it through the window. I gathered my wits and drew my sword. With one swift stroke I severed the arm at the elbow. From outside came a deafening wail, a sound that swiftly moved away. I rushed out and gave chase, but the thing was too quick, and I never even saw what it was. Yet as I returned, I found something had left behind. Outside the stable window was a basket, and in the basket was a baby boy. I took him with my wife, and we set to raise him as our own. and we named the boy Priadri. Over the years, travellers brought us news of Rhiannon and her punishment, and sorry I was to hear it, yet it seemed no special business of my own. Then one day I looked at our lad, and what I saw astounded me, for no one did he resemble so much as poor the King of David. And now, you men and women of this company, behold the boy yourselves, and see if any of you can deny he is the heir of your Lord. And all beheld the boy, and not one could deny it. Heaven be praised, cries Rhiannon. And so was Rhiannon's child restored, and her punishment brought to an end. Yet far from finished was the troubles of Porth and Rhiannon. Chapter 3, The Companion. Priadri, Prince of David, grew in strength and skill, and many were the times he heard from Porth and Rhiannon and Manawydan the story of his parents' meeting. And one day he said to them, "Show me where this happened." So the four of them climbed the mount of our birth. "Just here I sat," said Porth, and he sat next to me. Then came the sound like thunder, and thicker mist descended all about. And when it lifted, they looked out on the land, and gone were the people in the fields. All the herds, the homes, and every other sign of settlement was gone. The court itself was gone. No man, no woman remained in David. "Good God," cried Porth, "what evil has struck our land?" They hurried to the court and searched in the dining hall, sleeping chambers, kitchen and cellar, but nothing alive remained except the hounds and the horses. "By a single blow we are vanquished," said Manawydan, "and we know not even the victor's name." For weeks they lived off the provisions of the feast. When those were gone, they hunted and fished and gathered wild honey. But nowhere in the kingdom did they see a sign of human life. One morning, as Porth and Manawydan rode on the hunt, the hounds rushed into a thicket and flashed out a wild white boar. Off ran the boar with the dogs at its heels. But before the animal was out of sight, the boar stopped and turned. It held the dogs at bay until the hunters drew near, then turned and ran again. Several times this happened until they came to a huge stone fortress, where they knew no fortress had been before, and the boar ran through the open gate, with the dogs following. Then all barking stopped. However long they waited, they heard nothing more. "I must go after the dogs," said Porth. "My lord," said Manawydan, "certain is that whoever casts a spell on David is the one who placed the fortress here. You surely will be trapped inside, and I will be powerless to help you." "I cannot abandon my hounds," said Porth. Into the fortress he rode, but he saw no boar, no hounds, or any living thing, or a building of any kind. Nothing was there but a marble fountain, with a marble step around it, and next to the fountain a vessel of gold, hung from chains that reached to the sky. When Porth beheld the clear water, there came upon him an unbearable thirst. He mounted the step and grasped the vessel, then dipped it in the fountain and drank deeply. Then he discovered that the vessel held his hands fast, and the step held his feet. And when he tried to call for help, he found the water had stolen his voice. Outside the fortress, Manawydan waited until hope was gone, then returned to the court. "What has happened to my lord?" asked Rhiannon. "I know not," said Manawydan, and he told his tale. "You are not as good a friend as the one you lost," she said. "Will you take me there right now?" "My lady," said Manawydan, "I would not lose two friends in one day." So Rhiannon set out alone and rode until she found the fortress. Inside she saw her lord standing silent, feet on stone, hands on vessel. Then she beheld the water, and an undesirable thirst became upon her. "My lord," she said happily, "do you offer me a drink?" She stepped up and laid hands on the vessel, not heeding Porth's attempt to hold it from her. Then she discovered she too could not take away her hands or her feet. "Our friend was wiser than those he counselled," said Rhiannon. Then came a sound like thunder and a mist, and the fortress vanished from the earth. When night fell, neither Porth nor Rhiannon had returned. Priadri wept, but Manawydan told him, "Do not fear being alone. As I have been friend and support to father and mother, I will be to you for as long as you need me." "So I thought," said Priadri, and he took heart. After that, Manawydan and Priadri fished and hunted together, learning to track the game since their dogs were gone. And in the spring they tilled 3 fields and sowed wheat. The summer passed, and Manawydan saw that the wheat in one field was ripe. Then he told Priadri, "Tomorrow we'll harvest this field." But when they arrived the next morning, they saw a sight they'd never seen before. The ear of grain on each stalk was snipped off and taken away, and only straw was left standing. Then they looked at the second field and settled on the next morning for harvest. But when they came back, They found same as before, bare stalks only, all the ears were gone. Just one field left, said Manawyddan, but shame on me if I do not solve this mystery. So Manawyddan took up his sword and spear, and he hid that night in the field. And round about midnight he heard a great squeaking and squealing, and he saw approaching a huge army of mice. Into the field they poured, and each mouse ran up a stalk of wheat until the stalk bowed under its weight. Then the mouse bit off each ear, jumped to the ground and carried it away. In a rage, Manawyddan rose and gave chase, flinging his spear after him. But as often as he threw it, the mice scattered, so it only hit the ground. Soon the horde pulled far ahead, all but one plump mouse that lagged behind. Manawyddan grabbed it. Set your prayers tonight, little thief, said Manawyddan, for tomorrow you'll be hanged. Early next morning, Manawyddan climbed the mount of Arbeth, the mouse in his hand and Priadri by his side. And he set 2 forked sticks in the ground, with another stick across them. Then around the mouse's neck he tied a string, and the string's other end he laid across the crosspiece. Do you truly mean to hang the mouse? Asked Priadri. I do, said Manawyddan, and now it is time of execution. He reached for the string to raise the mouse, but as he did so he saw a rider coming up the mount, a bishop, and with him his servants and 7 horses laden with baggage, and no other strangers had they seen since the spell had come upon David. A blessing to you, my son, said the bishop. And what business is this you're about? Lord Bishop, said Manawyddan, I am hanging a thief. A thief, said the bishop. Is that not a mouse in your hand? It is, my lord, said Manawyddan. This mouse stole from me, and I will give it reward of thievery, which is hanging. My son, said the bishop, it ill becomes a man of noble birth to deal with such a creature. Rather than see you lower yourself like this, I will buy the mouse from you. Take a gold coin for it, and let the mouse go. I will not, said Manawyddan, for it will get its punishment that it deserves. I can hardly say how foolish you look, said the bishop. Here, take 3 gold coins and end this disgrace. It is not for sale, said Manawyddan. If you won't take 3, said the bishop, then take 20. I will not, said Manawyddan. If you won't take 20, said the bishop, then take 7 horses and all their baggage. By heaven, I'll accept none of it, said Manawyddan. All right, said the bishop, name your price. The price of the mouse, said Manawyddan, is the freedom of Porth and Rhiannon. You shall have it, said the bishop. Now let the mouse go. Not yet, said Manawyddan. I want also the end of spell on David. You shall have to have that too. Now let the mouse go. I will not, said Manawyddan, until I know who you are and who the mouse is. Then the bishop and his entourage vanished, and in their place was a great lord upon his steed, with one forearm missing. I am Lord Llwyd, he said, cousin of Lord Gwal. It was I who enchanted Davin and captured Porth and Rhiannon. It was I in the magical form who stole Priadri, but lost him to Tyrion, and all was to avenge the shameful treatment of Lord Gwal at the court of Hevevid the Old, when he was hit and kicked inside the bag. And though he pledged never to seek redress or revenge, I did it in his stead for love of him. And on 2 nights I sent my men in the form of mice to steal your crop. But on the 3rd night the ladies of the court asked to go instead. Among them was my wife, and it is she in your hand. And if she had not been pregnant, you had not caught her. Now let her mouse go. Not yet, said Manawyddan. What more can you want? Cried Llwyd. Your pledge never again to cast a spell on David, or to avenge yourself on Porth or his kin, or on me. You have my pledge, and wise you were to include yourself on the whole burden, or would have fallen on you. Now let the mouse go. I will not, said Manawyddan, until I see my friends. Then came a sound like thunder and a mist, and when it lifted, Porth and Rhiannon stood among them. Priadri ran to his mother and cried, and Rhiannon cried. Friend, said Porth to Manawyddan, it is you who has saved us. It is he, said Llwyd, and your kingdom with you. And they looked over David and saw the farms and the herds and the houses as they were before. Now let the mouse go. Manawyddan untied the mouse and set it down. Llwyd touched it, and it was his wand, and the mouse became a lovely young lady, heavily with child. With a scowl he lifted her up, and the horse and the riders vanished. Then the 4 of them returned to the court, where Feast and companions waited as if nothing had ever happened, and Porth and Rhiannon reigned happily over David for the rest of their lives. So I hope you've enjoyed that. That's one of my first Sacred Tales, and I'll see you next time. Bless you all.